Okay, now I should be live. Maybe I should have worn a cap for this. I just finished the run. But if this is working, I have my headphones on. I should be hearing the stream on my end as well. It's just gonna take a while before I can hear myself. I just want to make sure that the sound is okay before I start. And can anybody please update me if the sound is okay? Also for the members, I just noticed that we have a new member, Kyle, difficult surname to pronounce for me. Welcome to the mob. And Kyle, if you wanna use this palette, you can screenshot it here like anybody else, but the easier way is that there is a downloads folder for all of the channel members, and anybody who has joined this channel can download a huge set of recent palettes that I have done in these recent live streams. And on top of that, there are also 2 unique brushes and other brushes that are only available for members. Some of those are kind of secret that I don't want to spoil yet, so I don't want to talk about those yet. I'm gonna put my 3DS away so I don't knock it off the table before I get started. Anyway, this is the palette that I'm gonna be starting with. And the brush for today is Oil Stick, which is from Angrymikko Oil's brush set. I think I'm gonna switch to headphones. So I think the audio seems fine. I disabled the entire last live stream because the sound ducking wasn't working. Like, I was doing recordings on OBS and it seemed to work here just fine, but when I went live, the sound settings were completely different to you guys, and I'm sorry for that. But today, I've been doing private live stream tests, so I've been live streaming just for myself and doing recordings on another device to hear how it sounds live. And I think, at least momentarily, I was able to figure out how to make the ducking work. Without further ado, let's just get right into it. And I guess I should explain how this brush came to be part of the oil set. I wanted something that would kind of be as different as possible from the other brushes, and something that would kind of feel that almost like drawing, waxy, oil pastel each between the other brushes that are very much simulating oil paint in brush format with bristles and the way that they contact with canvas. The texture of Oil Stick is very much of a very coarse fiber paper canvas, and the profile is very predictable and easy to control. So if you're new to using brushes that you can use to blend the colors on your piece like this, I think this is an easy way to kind of get to work with that one feature without having all of the other dynamics of the brush settings just be there all at once at the same time. By the way, for anybody who is like not a member on this channel, like there's nothing stopping you from screenshotting my palette and stealing it for your paintings. There's plenty of editing room in these colors, so this is the best way to use the colors that I design for my paintings, rather than screenshotting one of my finished paintings where I have already edited the colors so that they are like super saturated and contrasty, and that way you're just gonna paint yourself into a corner. So trust me, if you wanna use the same kind of colors that I do, like these colors here in the palette, those are the kind that I use for the beginning of paintings. It's me T is saying, is there any online courses you would recommend for beginners? Of course, I would recommend my own art course, because especially if you're new to Procreate, it walks you through all of the controls and tools of Procreate, and then it's also an art course that it also teaches you my checklist method of how to check your composition. And I'm using a sky example because it's the easiest way to get started. It requires absolutely no prior drawing experience. And also, I have released a completely free, huge expansion to that art course. So when you get that art course, you get 2 different parts of it. And I recommend doing them in that order. First, the sky course, and then building on fundamentals course, which takes those lessons from the first part and then applies them to a much more complicated art project. And I walk you through like more like rendering, visual design and location design, architecture, and how to build mood through different materials and color surfaces. So that's a more advanced, but I don't recommend anybody to jump straight into building on fundamentals. In that art course, the first part is really designed for complete beginners. But even if you're not a complete beginner, I still recommend doing the composition checklist part, because it's the way that I do all of my paintings, and it's the system that I'm going to be using for this painting as well. And it's just so much information that it would never work as a fast-paced YouTube video, but I'm really glad that I was able to package all of that information so that people who can't attend any of my concept art classes, like in the Helsinki region, can have access to that stuff as well. Oh, I have still more canvas to paint. I'm really just trying to layer as much of these colors as I can and see if anything kind of comes out of it. Range stuff on the desk so that the recording doesn't have all kinds of garbage in it. I was thinking that maybe for one of the live streams I could use the bare footage in one of these vertical columns so that there would be kind of like slightly faster painting process happening at the same time, so people would have like multiple things to watch. Or maybe when I do another vertical painting again, and then I could use that on the left side. Also, thank you everybody who notified me about the sound. I also have a sound engineer that I recruited for €0 in the living room. So I told my boyfriend that I want him to check the sound as well. So he has been sending me very kindly text messages about how it's going. I just felt like so, I don't know, devastated to realize that the bear painting live stream that I did, that it was completely unusable because of the sound, even though that I thought that it would be okay. I don't know how many of you like do any sort of live streaming, like when it comes to gaming or anything, but to me, like I've been doing live streams for years and years now, and prior to this year, it has never even occurred to me that if I do a recording in OBS, that the sound settings would be different for the recording than they would be in an actual live stream, so that the output is different for those two things. It's just so confusing. I'm Feeling Cozy is asking, how do you visualize what you want the finished product to look like? Sometimes an idea comes to me, for example, when I'm running, and then I usually try to open my voice notes app, and I don't stop running. I just like scream the idea into the voice notes app, because you know how a good idea comes to you and then you forget it. And that's the worst feeling to have. It's just like you were given this great thing and then you completely wasted it somehow. I hate that. So I would rather have at least a voice note, and usually the idea kind of like comes back as much as it can. But very often in these live streams, I kind of like feel out different colors beforehand, because when I started doing live streams here on YouTube, I always thought that like if I have a really clear plan of what I'm going to paint, then it's going to be easy and I'm not going to be anxious and nervous that I'm going to be painting badly in front of you guys here. Because I really did like fear that a lot, and that people would make fun of the way that I paint or something, you know, like all kinds of like silly fears. But now I realized that like every time that I tried to do some kind of preparation for it, every time that I tried to sort of minimize the damage, I would also minimize the risk. And when you do that, you sort of like leave out all the possibility of what kind of cool things could happen with your art. I think it kind of almost looks like a helmet or something, this round thing. I'm not sure. I would also have so many like live streams that I started by like minutes before the live stream started. I would just like panic scroll through Pinterest or something, and then just like, I need good ideas, like I need to be inspired by something visual, and none of it worked. Like not even a single time was there like some kind of trigger from an image that would make me feel like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Like now I have a plan. It would just lock me up completely. But the closest to that feeling of like preparing somehow that I was able to get at all is when I started doing palettes. Because at least with palettes, when I'm making them, I can play with colors, and that usually kind of gets me in that flow mode of painting. Because just working on a completely abstract, like it basically looks like this canvas right here when I'm making a palette. It's just mixed colors, or I'm using some kind of like pictures of paintings that I've seen in galleries, or details in pictures in galleries, and using them as a base to get started with this sort of like abstract mess. And then I gather these sort of color groups where you can see that this is clearly a lighter version of this color, this is a lighter version of this color, and then there's always this sort of clear logic. And this is the top left corner is always the light hue in my pieces. So that way, when I start one of these sessions, then I can start kind of like randomly playing with colors and still have that certainty that sort of like same color logic is going to be there regardless. I have done some live streams where I'm just like without a palette completely randomly slapping different colors, and easily the hue variety doesn't have any sort of light logic in it. And then I'm really digging myself into a deep hole that is almost impossible to sort of like get out of that mess. It's really easy to do color blends with this brush. If somebody's into like smooth blends and yet wants to have this sort of like coarse textured look when you zoom in, I think this is a really good brush for that. Not that you need to do like blends in your paintings. Have you ever used Procreate Dreams? Yes, I have. And I know that there's a recent update to it as well that should add a ton of much needed improvements. I've just been really invested in improving my painting skills. That's why I've been doing so many sort of like fundamental art practice art assignments on the membership, and it's really for me as well. Like I do those exercises as well. Because I want to learn and keep improving, so for me those are just as important as for anybody else doing them. And I always notice that like when I'm doing one of the art assignments, I just notice that you can never do too many of them. Like even if it's the same art assignment, like just doing it again and again. Like you always have different ideas in different paintings. I'm gonna do this like eye slit on a new layer because I have no idea where it's gonna go. And if it's in the wrong place, I can easily just adjust this. I'm not gonna really see it on the shadow side, but I'm just gonna slap in something in here anyway. Is it big enough? I'm just gonna take the warp tool and just kind of wrap it around a little bit. Then maybe like breathing holes. I want these to be so big that I can show a like tiny hint of three-dimensionality in the way that they are wrapped around this shape. I'm trying to sort of like do line art whenever I need it, and then go back to painting when I need the sort of like volume guidance. It's not really drawing, but the direction of these brushstrokes is also my way of kind of thinking about the three-dimensional shape constantly. So it might look like I'm just painting over the same part over and over again, but it's sort of printing into my mind like what the three-dimensional shape is that I'm trying to get across here. And if I'm sort of painting along those lines, then it's much easier for me to visualize the three-dimensional shape as well. It's kind of a weird process to explain, but if I wasn't doing it, I'm sure that you would notice that the brushstrokes would somehow look too flat and off, and the shading would be too smooth. When I have that blue color on the far side, almost like that's the sky reflection color, somewhere around here. And then maybe sort of those sort of... I'm gonna really quickly Google what armour looks like. Okay. Like the first images are exactly what I was thinking of. Like the shoulder blades are separate from the chest piece, and then there are these sort of like loops that they are making. Maybe that's too much of an arc, and it should be flatter, like here. See, this sort of stuff would be easier if I had already done a sketch and then I just basically was coloring that sketch. But I know that the way that my creativity works, and even though this seems kind of a dangerous way to do it, it's just more exciting to me as well. I know that a lot of technical stuff I can figure out. Everything is figure-outable. I have such a strong urge to tilt this vertically so I could see it from this direction, but I have this sort of vague idea that is forming in my mind, and for that it's really important to keep it like this. Hello, Andrew. Anyone Designs. I'm having a nice day now that the live stream is happening. I was sort of nervous about it before. Is that in a weird part for the ear? Maybe it's a little bit too high. I'm thinking about the ear spot, it would probably be around here. Thank you. How are you guys doing? Like, is anybody doing any painting today? Is it still Monday? Or are we in Tuesday now? Seems like time is flying by this year so quickly. At this point, everything is still just mostly on the same layer. I don't know if I'm gonna need more layers, but right now I'm kind of liking the way that all the colors are sort of blending together. And there is like a real function to the single layer technique as well. It's allowing the colors to blend when they are on the same layer. If not, then the colors will be just blending optically, which is a different thing, and I far prefer that sort of like oily look when the colors are using each other to look more rich, and every single brushstroke is having its own identity, and it's all very location specific how it looks. And to me, it's just more fun to paint that way. I think here I need to find some kind of a dark color that is also just slightly lighter, and maybe towards the green slightly more, because it's tilted towards the grass. Also, somebody was like asking beginner things, like if for beginner things you want specifically like Procreate specific content, then I recommend doing my art course that is on Gumroad. There should be a link in the description of this video. But for people who just like want to like really feel serious about art learning and want to do art assignments, then I recommend the membership of this channel, honestly, because there are so many art assignments that are from my concept art classes directly. And for example, the recent one that we are doing, it's very beneficial for learning how to use color and seeing color at the same time as value. I was thinking of like doing this painting as a continuation of that art assignment live stream that we did recently, but I still haven't been able to figure out the colors for it. So I know that I want to use gray in that painting as well as a key player, but I guess I just wanted to like ease myself into the use of a gray because it's going to be probably a topic of my upcoming YouTube video. So I would feel more comfortable knowing what I'm talking about and feeling like slightly more in control of that before I start doing the super intensely difficult painting when it comes to gray. I don't know if metal is like any easier though. Like, I don't know who I'm trying to fool by saying that. I really like that like one blue dot that I still have from the beginning abstract things there. I think it's really holding the entire painting together. So even though it's not something that I wanna keep in the final phase, I definitely want to incorporate that sort of like shade of bright blue as saturated element somehow. Like, I don't know exactly how yet. Unfortunately, I'm like painting over it. Just when I was saying how cool it is, it's gonna color pick it a little bit and then just do some like random spots of blue just so that I remember. Maybe not there. I don't want to cover it up completely. There's something in there. Just can't quite describe it yet, but I hope that by continuing this painting it will sort of reveal itself to me. I'm trying not to like zoom in too much because for me, like, there's this constant struggle that my brain is going through when it comes to the angle of the whole of this chest part of this armor and the head part being in different like basically like being separated from each other, and that to me is really like just a constant battle trying to think about them as two separate items. I know that for an outsider, like, who sees the entire situation in a more objective way, to you this might seem like super easy. But for me, I have to like constantly, honestly think about it. I'm now on a Lighten layer, so I'm just taking away contrast from some of those outline looking things that I did earlier. Kappe23 saying, I'm usually too much of a perfectionist, but recently I've been forcing myself to be happy with little imperfections. Some of your new oil brushes have been great for that. Thank you. That makes me really happy to hear that. And yes, I think the entire reason why I made the oil brush for myself really is like that exact reason, is because I wanted to have that sort of I guess like find the fun in like painting in a slightly more messy way. I know that might sound really negative to some, but I enjoy the fact that there's this sort of like controlling of like the mass of color, and every single brushstroke kind of affects one another. And that feeling I really like about these brushes, and it's something that sort of very easily reminds me that like I actually like this painting thing that I'm doing, that it's not all just a big competition, art competition, because to me, especially painting online and being so reliant on getting people to like my paintings, honestly, I don't know any like more politically correct way of saying that. Like I do rely on people liking and sharing my work. It's the only way that I make any income at all. But it can feel very like high pressure sometimes because of that, and I just needed these sort of tools to remind myself that like I actually like doing this. I don't know if this is a like slightly too saturated color for what I'm doing. It's also why I like doing palettes so much, because there I can just like blend and mix colors without any expectations of like making anything presentable or impressive. Those sort of moments are really important to me. And I just wanted to bring some of that, like that same vibe into my own painting thing. Even though I already made the palette, and the palette is a big part of the colors that we have here right now, but most of the colors I'm just mixing on the fly here. I don't know if you notice it on the screen, but I'm color picking my painting absolutely, like, just constantly. I need to kind of zoom out a little bit so I can feel out if that form is working. Yeah, Tired Finnish Dad is saying, family's getting keys to our new apartment in 2 days. Kitty's excited to get an angry print on the children's room wall. That's exciting. Might have to make the dream come true. Just need to decide wall paint first. Painting of a fairy sitting on a shell at the beach with a green glow coming from the ocean. Crystalline healing is this is the art idea that they are doing, which sounds very challenging of a subject, but good luck getting that done. I'm sure it's gonna be great. I'm trying to think of like how these would sort of overlap, so maybe there wouldn't be that much of a seam in here because the seams are happening away from us, so we don't really we see the edges, but we shouldn't see that much of the shadow in this part. And try to use the green to define it from the outer edge. Sometimes instead of working on the shape, you can also work on the outside of the shape and sort of carve your shape in that way. I think that's a great way to sort of see your forms in a more abstract way. Even if you have reference, then that's also still a good idea. To instead of thinking about like head and shoulder, like maybe just look at the shadow shape or a negative space that is forming between the torso and the arm. And that way you get like these abstract shapes that are much easier to compare to the other angles in front of you. Because rainbow forest piece. The rainbow forest piece is really nice. I think that's a great memory. I still remember the live stream when we did that here. I honestly felt like the painting is not going anywhere. Like I thought this is that's one of the paintings where like I thought that the visual hook was so strong that surely like this is going to be fast and easy to paint, and turns out that it wasn't. You guys should have seen Vivi today, because I was playing with her new mallard toy, and I was throwing it to Vivi, but like then I was working here and I was working on the next video, and when I went to get coffee, I noticed that like she had gone to her bed to sleep in her dog bed, and she had dragged the mallard duck with her. I have so many photos on my phone of just Vivi sleeping in random cute poses. In my opinion, cute poses. And I don't mean like dozens, I mean like probably thousands of pictures of Vivi, honestly. This is one way that you know that you are absolutely obsessed with your dog, is when you go to your phone and then you use the search function. Like for example, like Will's cardigan corgi, because those are all only Vivi pictures. And then it's just like you have 7,000 matches for this inquiry. It's like, oh. we lived on the moon. That's a really difficult name to like realize that that's an entire sentence as a name. Is saying the joy of getting your dog the jackpot toy. Yes, like there are definitely so many toys that I've gotten Vivi where I'm really excited about the toy, but then Vivi is just like, I would rather have you throw the rope knot to me than whatever you thought that this was. Like this is just an embarrassing gift to me, like a royal cardigan corgi. Like, how dare you? Go get me my rope and stop being silly. I think the best thing about like having a corgi is that they somehow just like know that they are more valuable creatures than you are. Like they know it. They don't have an attitude. They just know that they are above your pay grade, whatever that is. Like even if you're the Queen of England, your ankle will get bitten if you don't behave according to their whims. I'm now trying to do the other side of this chest plate. I really need to make some decisions on like where that scene actually is here. I can't like be fussy about it. One of my life drawing class teachers said that like my problem is that like I don't have the courage to make decisions. And he was completely right about these things. I'm all fine like when it comes to like vague shadows, but when I actually need to like put some definitive untake-backable lines down, then I usually kind of like fumble it at that phase. I think the entire armor could look a little bit more ornate if I add more of these sort of like edge pieces where the edge of the armor would otherwise be so sharp that it would actually cut into the skin, but then it needs to have that sort of like rounded edge because it might be in contact with the person underneath. I want to add like different shades of rust, like these sort of oxidized parts, and then those sort of more brown elements as well. Maybe at the edges of these sort of like green parts. joints here where the stud that is keeping the mouthpiece in place, that would probably have a lot more rust, and all of these joints as well that would gather moist. And you would see weathering there faster than in other places. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit to make this line slightly smoother. You can also see the texture that this brush is creating. I had a short run for once today, so I only did 5k, so I got to run a little bit faster than I normally do, which always feels fun. There's not that many weeks of my marathon training plan left, so I'm gonna need new goals because it always feels a little bit... I don't know how to explain it, but like aimless to run after you have completed some kind of a sports event that you have trained for. And then suddenly there's nothing. You can just live your life and you have all this time. Like just last weekend when I was on a long run, it took me 2 hours and 40 minutes to just like be out there slowly running on the road. 5k is better than none. Yes, I truly feel that like when I started running, I could only run like the distance between like few lampposts, and I think a lot of like sports channels that are on YouTube, like they don't appreciate or understand, because like of course like if they are huge fitness channels, they are usually people who are like super beefy looking and incredibly lean. They don't understand how difficult it is for somebody who hasn't been like exercising their entire life to start exercising. Oh my god, I painted this on the wrong layer. Can I salvage it somehow? Do I even need to salvage it? Damn it, maybe it's just a few. Sorry, I know that it's super boring whenever I start doing layer management garbage on these live streams. Sometimes it's just necessary. When it comes to other sports though, I think running is very motivating in that your progress is so visible. Like, obviously, you're not competing against anybody when you run, but when you do it, like, you can't help like not noticing, like, you will improve. Like, at least I wasn't even paying attention to my pace or speed at all when I started. I just noticed immediately that I can run further, and that felt so amazing to me. I just the thought of like somebody being able to run like continuously several kilometers, like to me seemed amazing. And then I remember this like one day when I was in Turku with my boyfriend, and there was this huge marathon event that happens there every year called Paavonurmi Marathon. And I was looking at the people running past us, and it was super hot, and they were running through these sort of showers so that they wouldn't have a heat stroke on the track. And my first thought was that like all of these people that are running here, like I think that these people are super fit and I wanna feel like that basically, because I was always quite overweight and bullied in school because of it. So it's really hard for me not to see myself as overweight. So I thought that if I have this external goal, then it will be sort of like undeniable proof that I have improve myself in this one aspect that at the time felt really meaningful to me. And last year I ran that Nurmi marathon myself for the first time, so that was super cool. It was a fun event, but when I was running it, it wasn't super hot. There were no showers to run through because it was just absolutely pissing down rain the entire time. And I was running with my running vest that had this sort of light coat in there, and I was constantly like pulling it out and putting it on myself because it had a hood, so that my headphones, my running headphones that are like absolutely gross and probably will cause the next zombie outbreak, that they wouldn't break because of the rain, because these aren't like expensive weatherproof headphones. So I was running with the jacket so that I was like holding the hood like this as I was running on the road. And I just kept repeating this, like putting the jacket on whenever I started noticing that the rain is getting crazy. In the last, I guess, around like 10 kilometers, I just thought that like, okay, at this point, I don't care if the headphones break and electrocute me anymore. I'm just gonna battle through this. They didn't break, and I did finish. But it's just crazy to think how far I've come from the days when I did my first runs and I would run between the different like light posts and quit because I couldn't keep going anymore. See, Visor is saying, by the way, correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong the entire time, is saying, I will say, as someone who trains regularly in multiple disciplines, running always kicks my butt. Well, swimming always kicks my butt. I think I should get back to pool and continue practicing swimming, because I only recently learned how to do the freestyle swimming technique. But the swim practice, I think it was just like too much pressure to me. I always felt like I'm blocking everybody else's speed by just like being in that same pool with those crazy people in the first place. I'm gonna try to do some kind of ornament on this part of the... So it wasn't like, it was even hard for me to like focus on my own technique anymore, because I always thought that like I'm just a nuisance to everybody else that is like trying to get their practice session done. But for a while I had those headphones that you can use when you're swimming, and those sort of sessions were pretty fun, like relaxing even. Once you get past the sort of panic of being in a pool, it can be almost fun. I can see that I would enjoy it at some point if I just make myself practice it. Like when I started running, I'm not gonna lie, like I literally hated it, but I told myself that like I can hate this for an entire year, and if I still hate it at the end of this year, then I can stop. But I'm not gonna stop because it feels uncomfortable right now. I just kind of trusted the process of what I've heard from people say on the podcasts about running. The running high will kick in and then it will start feeling completely different. And that is true. But at the time it was really hard to believe that. because of the triathlon club that I was in, I now also have a wetsuit, so I should also use that to go and swimming in a lake during summer, because that is honestly like super fun. It might sound like this is the most hardcore version of swimming, but when you're swimming with a wetsuit, it's actually a lot easier because the wetsuit is kind of giving you extra buoyancy, so you don't have to work as hard to keep your legs lifted in a more sort of like, is it hydrodynamic or aerodynamic position, so that you're causing less friction when your legs don't sink. By the way, these reflections are complete garbage. I'm absolutely making them up as I go. There's no reason behind them. I'm just like trying to make them look as convincing as possible. There should be like some bigger flowers here as well. Because it's such a flat area, just to create some more visual interest there. sometimes it's just fun to work on kind of smaller details before making more decisions. Makes me feel like I can actually do this. I don't know if I would have felt so relaxed starting this stream if I knew what was like coming. It's not an easy subject. C. Weiser is saying, I think there's a really good analogy in there for art as well, being hard and still putting in the effort in trusting the process. Yeah, I have to say that when I was able to, like, I know that like running is really annoying to a lot of people, so sorry about that. The people who don't do long distance running don't, like, it's not for smart people. Don't start, like, don't let this be your inspirational speech for that. Do something else more meaningful and fun with your life. I just, like, I'm too far gone. Like, I've already found my drug in it, and that's my life. But I have to say that there's something in it when you set yourself these sort of hard goals and work really hard for it. Like, nobody just accidentally, like, even still, in my opinion, at least with my sort of like fitness base that I had when I started training, which was like none, like, nobody accidentally stumbles across a marathon finish line. You have to like do like dedicated months and months of work, and then that run is just the celebration of that work. That is why it feels so emotional and incredible to get to the finish, because it's not just that run, it's like you realizing that all that hard work that you put in led you to that place. That is what is so magical about it. And then when you face other hard things in life, like an art project that feels like, okay, my creativity gave me this like really cool idea, but I'm pretty sure that this came to the wrong address, that this was meant for some like way more experienced and technically proficient artist than me, because I definitely don't feel like I am qualified to do this idea any justice. But then you remember that, oh yeah, there have been like much harder things that I have accomplished. At worst, what is this? Like, I can Google some reference images, like do some studies, and learn to draw and paint the subject that the idea requires me to learn. When you start thinking about everything in those terms, suddenly pretty much everything is figure-outable. It's just about realizing that there are multiple steps to reach that goal. And it doesn't have to be running, of course, like whatever it is that you have in your life, that you can accomplish something that will remind you that you can do hard things. I think that's something that will be valuable to pretty much everything that you do. When it comes to your art or fitness or just like other life challenges in general, you can always ask, this is hard, but is it harder than that other thing that I already did? Probably not. Do something that will be always like that one thing that you can refer to as, I survived that, I will survive this as well. This is easy compared to what I have already done earlier. Fallen Knight. Name idea. I have this rule, like maybe you can do this painting and you can give it that name, but I have this rule for my painting names that whenever you can and it makes sense, you shouldn't do a painting of an apple and call it Apple. You're not giving your audience anything to think about. I did something today that kind of makes me think of this painting. Like, it's a pretty heavy-handed symbolism, but okay. I will probably name it after that thing. Long run. if anybody is like a cyclist here, the real name should be FTP test. I think I'm getting the gray across, but it's still not quite rusty enough for my liking. I added this overlay on color blend mode layer. And then on top of that, I added a normal blend mode layer with just the rust color to give it a little bit more matte or opaque feeling. Now I'm going into these sort of like small parts where the ornaments are to add more high opacity rust parts. I feel like it needs a butterfly. I think maybe the flowers are it. I'm thinking about that scene in the movie. I don't know if anybody has seen Luc Besson's Joan of Arc, where Joan of Arc is being explained that death isn't romantic, it's horrifying and brutal. It's bloody and it's traumatic, and it takes several summers before death eventually becomes romantic. But in the moment, it's far from it. And there is this knight that is fighting in one of the battles, and it's showing the passage of time on different summers, and in the end the meadow grows over the battlefield. Watching this on a second screen in grayscale, and it's an experience. Do you have a black and white screen for some reason? That's interesting. I'm endlessly fascinated by the simultaneous color move. Will it ever end? I hope not. I really like the way that these hues are kind of like playing off each other, and you can see if I zoom right here into the texture. But when I zoom out, you can just see that those sort of two different tones that are so close to each other in value are vibrating in a very beautiful way in that section. Got lucky with the texture there. What was I doing? I was supposed to do those hint of ornamentation here as well. Hello, it looks really cool. Oh, thank you, Anya. On my phone is the answer to the black and white TV. I remember when I was a kid, I still had like one of my grandmother's, I think, sister had a television that was still one of the original black and white ones. just feel like today I did some hard things that I've been putting off for a really long time. Being able to do a little bit of painting with you feels so therapeutic to me, I can't even explain it. Hello, Hertz. I also hope that it's not just me making art, that people out there are making art as well. I always find it kind of somehow relaxing to paint while I'm like listening to artist live streams myself. It feels like I'm painting with somebody else. I don't know if that's weird. But especially if I have like a really tedious section. Let's say that, for example, I have a huge cliff face, or I'm figuring out how to do stairs in a complex perspective, or there's a huge brick wall that I need to detail that is going to take forever, or a edge fence or something, then having some kind of like an art companion thing to listen to while I work always just makes me feel like I'm not working by myself. gonna zoom in a little bit more because I think I'm pretty happy with the overall look of most things here. Here I'm not mixing the colors by like dragging them around. I am just lightly pressing the stylus on the screen so that the color is only catching to those sort of like peak ridges of the rough paper texture. And that way I am able to preserve more of those sort of like optical color blends in this area. So much work for such a small part of the piece. I think here I could use like slightly like dark umber colors. To define that seam. I think for this area I could still find like a slightly more like juicy oxidized rust color that is maybe slightly more saturated and a tiny bit warmer. I'm just gonna slap it in here and then try to find it with hue and saturation adjustments. I think the rust is important for the message of finding the beauty in the decay and at the end of things. I'm pretty happy with that color already. I'm just gonna check my options. It's gonna desaturate it a little bit, and I think that's just the punch that I was looking for. Trying to look at the small thumbnail and see what I could still work on. I think the shadows on the outer shoulder, they were a little bit harsh. So maybe I could have some sort of Lighten layer gradient there to wash away some of that excessive contrast, to push away some of those shadow creases as they are further from the camera. So I want to like suggest that there are some sort of like light parts in here that are in a very subtle way bringing out that outer edge of that helmet. It doesn't have to be continuous. I am fine with the shape merging with the shadows. I just want in some areas there to be like a clean round edge here to suggest the silhouette of the helmet. I kind of like that there is so much variety in all kinds of different greens here, mixing with the browns and the different color layers that have been here, some of them even from the beginning of the painting. And on the right, I just have these sort of like masses of brush strokes here. And I don't want to lie, like I have no intention of like somehow fixing this area. I think it pretty much looks the way that I already want it to look. This is the kind of stuff that if I had this as a print on my wall, I could just look at this part endlessly. Now that lighter color trick. Maybe I could use some kind of brown here. just paint over all of these dark parts that are looking like a hole from a distance. And also grab some of these greens and mix those colors together so that it's just a little bit more textured look. Again, I'm just very lightly pressing here. I think that's pushing the shoulder away pretty well. I mean, I'm gonna toggle it on and off so you can see. Doesn't that look better? I mean, that it still looks like a shadow, but it's not kind of carving in the same way as before. Mythical homepage pull. I think I love this saying. I think it just goes to show how much of our time we are willing to kind of like throw to the algorithm gods these days. those like damn lines are because I merged those layers earlier in a very, very messy way. I am not proud of. I'm just gonna clean up this because I have all of the other edges in the entire painting done in the exact same texture. I don't want these random selection lines here breaking my vibe. Not sure if this was asked, but are you working from a reference? Well, when the night thing started to come in, don't know if this is gonna be visible at all on a camera. In fact, is this the best version? These images? Now that I opened it in this way, I think I lost the best one. Damn it. Okay. I know that everybody gets like different Google results when you Google armour, but I Googled it and it gave me this. I lost the one that I was like mostly. I think it's a Wikipedia entry, and that's where I'm getting the idea of those studs and the head shape. I'm gonna try and show it. It looks like this. It's a different helmet part, but I don't know if you can see it. Like this is, it has that sort of like same sort of like ornamental segments on the chest plate. Honestly, I think my helmet here looks a little bit Boba Fett-y to me, but I'll just live with it for now. when I'm looking here, I am looking at the thumbnail version of this entire painting, because there I can see it from like very far of a distance. And when I'm looking at the thumbnail version, like when I'm looking at this painting in front of me, I definitely don't see it. But when I look at the thumbnail view on the streaming software, I'm really happy with the way that those sort of like glossy parts are placed. And I don't think without this sort of like zoomed out view, I would be able to just like see it that it's here at all. I really do need to like see it like in this scale. Otherwise, it would just look completely random to me. It's amazing just like how little a hint of a glossy area can make a difference and sell that illusion. I didn't do those like weird discs in front of the shoulders because I have no idea what those are, and like drawing huge plates in here, I think it would be just the weird. At least I should have the understanding of like what those parts in the armor actually do before feeling confident painting them in. Okay, I think it's okay. I'm gonna do a copy canvas. I'm not gonna blur it, I'm just gonna leave it as it is because I like the texture. I don't wanna get rid of that. When you add like very large Gaussian blurs like this, like they don't take away the texture, they just like highlight the highlights. And that light can sort of pull all of the colors together. I hope you guys have enjoyed dying on this hill with me. How do you know if your values are correct? For that, I have an exercise that we are doing in the membership right now. So I recommend checking that out. It's basically we are doing a block-in with colors. And that's one way that you can learn to see values and colors at the same time. Because when you're working with gouache, when you're working with oils, the color and value, they are together in one clump. You kind of have to work with them, and that way when you do digital paintings you also learn skills that you can transfer to other media as well. Okay, so I'm dead in a good way. It was not that long of a stream. Usually I thought that this would easily go into the 3 hours. But I think if I get more hysterical about the details in this piece, I'm gonna lose some of that sort of rough charm that it has. I think that technique can so give a vibe to a piece, and I think for this piece, that sort of like rough painterly look is giving it this sort of like legendary look. Like this is not a depiction of what you are seeing in front of you. This is a story that somebody else is telling you that happened long ago. And maybe that person that is telling the story is not themselves alive anymore. That is what their story and the technique is telling through this sort of like roughness of it. Thank you everybody who joined this stream, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Go paint something if you haven't already, and if you did, good job. Thank you for keeping me company in this. Bye.